Good morning, brother. How you doing?
Good. How you doing today?
Oh, man, I'm great. I'm great. Back in Houston, Texas. I think the last couple of weeks I've been doing a lot of traveling, so good to be home. Hey, just want to welcome everybody to the show. Another episode of Motivation and Mindset. I am James Morris, President and CEO of TMC Workforce Solutions and also TMC Supply Chain Solutions. So we're a national staffing company, and I'm here with my brother.
I am Jermaine Morris. I'm a certified coach and consultant. I'm based out of Sacramento, California, and my practice is based around a DISC assessment where I primarily work under the focus of self-awareness without judgment.
Yeah. Hey, and just want to thank everybody that's been joining. The following continues to grow every week. The impressions grow. I've been getting a lot of positive messages out there on Facebook. So just really, really appreciate the support, people supporting the show. I like to say it every week. I am not a doctor. I'm not a lawyer. I'm not prescribing anything. This show is just two brothers. We get together every week and we're talking about real life issues, right? We're talking about things that happen in business. We're talking about things that are happening in your personal, and we're hoping that through the dialogue that we can help somebody else. So that's really our goal. That's what we're trying to accomplish. So, hey man, I'm ready to jump into today's topic. And I like when I thought about what we're going to talk about today. I mean, it applies everywhere. So today we're going to talk about, and I'm going to change our ticker, is focusing on the details. Fine tuning. And when you start talking about focus on the details, I know me, in the professional realm on the business side, that's something that I'm always on my team about doing. But it applies if you're an athlete on the football field, right? Whether you're running a route or running a play, it applies if you're a chef, a cook in the kitchen, right? Hey, if it says a pinch of salt, what is that? So much butter, so much, you know what I mean? So focusing on the details. So that's what we're going to talk about today. Super, super excited because I think it's so important. So
Yeah.
usually I start off and I run. Um, when I start talking to you about, and I know you see a lot of people, you're out there on several different platforms. When I start talking to you about focusing on the details and your clients and your audiences, what type of things are you really talking to them about?
Yeah, I think of like the concept, the idea of perfecting the small. So, like a lot of times we can get focused on trying to get big wins.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm trying to hit a home run every time.
Right.
But when you go to batting practice, you don't go to batting practice to start off to hit home runs.
Okay.
You start batting practice to make contact, to
Okay.
get form, to get can you control which direction? Can you control a grounder? Can you put it between second and third? Can you put it between first and second? Can you get the fundamentals down? And so
Yes.
that's the first thing I think of. Go ahead.
So I'm just going to be a little challenging today.
Okay.
So let's talk to me a little bit about the guy that focuses on all the details
Yeah.
and the guy that's just really worried about getting the big chunks,
Okay.
right? Some guys, in business we have generalists, and we have specialists,
Yes.
right? And the specialists are the guys that are really focused on all the minute details.
I lost you for a second.
Are you back?
I'm here. You froze it on my screen though.
Yeah, we're frozen on this side too. So a little technical
Okay.
difficulty. So
There you
we
go.
had the same issues as CNN. I see we got a few people out there watching. Am I back?
You pop back in. Yep.
Okay, good. So again, for those we lost a few people, but that's okay. For those of you just joining in, sorry for the technical difficulties, but we're talking about focusing on the details. And where we're going now is really, what are the differences that you see between the specialist and the generalist?
Yeah. So I think that there's a place for both. First off, like everything does not require, you know, like so if you're creating a statue, I was kind of looking at it that way. So if you're gonna say you're gonna make a statue of a person, you got a big old slab of marble. In the beginning, you're starting off with a sledgehammer. Like you're taking big,
Mm-hmm.
huge, strong strokes to just start to break through the marble. But when you really start making detail, facial features, um, like the detail stuff, then you got a small little chisel, small little tink, 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 and you're sanding, try to get to detail. So depending upon what we're talking about,
Right,
some things require the sledgehammer, some things require the chisel and sandpaper. But so if you're
right.
looking at so time and place, there's some things that can be more broad, some things that require being specific. But I think what happens is that sometimes the the generalist does not respect the specialist, and so everything can't be sledgehammer. You don't just
Right,
get from
right.
slab of marble to statue just with a sledgehammer, just with the strong stroke, just with the home run swings. So sometimes it's about
Yeah.
when we're doing stuff in life, it's okay, I need to get these small steps down. I need to pay attention to detail on things. Everything is not going to be a home run. Like I said, if you're batting practice, you learn how to swing the bat, you learn how to get form, not just try to get
Mm-hmm.
everything over the fence.
Yeah. It's funny because, while I'm listening to you talking, and, I spend, as kind of a hobby, I spend some time doing competitive powerlifting.
Okay.
Right. And there's times where, I may talk to somebody and I've got a bunch of medals and they're like, oh man, you're a power lifter. Um, you don't look like a power lifter. I was like, really? And, a lot of people are thinking bodybuilding,
Hmm.
and if you think about, if you get a 250-pound bodybuilder and a 250-pound power lifter, well, those guys look very, very different.
Yeah.
Power lifter, he does 3 or 4 basic exercises. He's not worried about his diet. He's very much a generalist.
Yeah.
But when you look at a bodybuilder is very much a specialist. He's looking at being leaner, right? He's focused on his diet. He's counting macros, whatever that means. And, he's looking at his supplementation, and, he may do 5 or 6 different exercises for his chest, while a power lifter, he's just going to go in there and do bench, squat, and deadlifts. And he's just a big old bulky guy. And so those are some of the things that I think about. But, on the personal side, and we'll get into the business aspects also, I always try to figure out how can I use our sessions as my way of getting free therapy. And, when you think about on the relationship side, right?
Yeah.
I'm a guy that probably has traditionally been a really good generalist.
Okay.
You make sure you buy flowers on Valentine's Day. You make sure that you pay the bills. You do the big things. But I know that as you get into relationships, you can't always be a generalist,
Yeah.
right? Sometimes you have to really be a specialist, right? So let's talk a little bit about being a specialist versus a generalist, right? Focusing on the details and building a, positive and productive relationship.
Yeah. So so to piggyback first off with the example of the power lifters and the bodybuilders, even bodybuilders are still work on detail, because before you worry about how much weight you stack on, you got to make sure your form is right.
Right.
So there's still a detailed process. And then you look at, like, so say in relationships, well, I remembered our anniversary, and I remembered your birthday, and I remember Valentine's Day, and I can think of a half dozen others, specific things throughout the year.
Right.
Okay, but the foundation is going to be, did you take the trash out? Did you put gas in the car?
Mm-hmm.
Did you come home when you said you were going to come home? Did you call back when you said you were going to call back? Did you, we were going to go out on this night. Did you come? Did we go out, or was there some reason something came up and we didn't? Like the small thing, perfecting the small.
Right.
Getting recognizing and appreciating small victories and building upon that for the home run.
Yeah.
You worried about, like I said, hitting a home run every at bat, and you just Casey Jones in it. It's either over the wall or you striking out.
Right.
But if you can get everybody on base, then continuous base hits equal continuous runs.
Yeah.
And so when you're looking at in life, it's not just showing up. It's not just getting your kid a big gift on his birthday, or spending all that money on her prom dress. It's did you help with homework on a random Tuesday?
Sure.
A sitting conversation at dinner on a Thursday.
Right. Critical.
Yeah, mowing the lawn. You mowing the lawn, they raking the leaves, and y'all just having a heart-to-heart on a Saturday afternoon. No holiday, no fanfare.
Yeah. So I think that's very critical. I think about in business, and I kind of go back and forth, right? Because sometimes I'll get into a meeting and I'll tell somebody on my team, I just need the high levels. Don't get down in the weeds, because I just need a summary. But there's also times when I need to understand what's our cost per unit. Okay. What's our EBITDA, earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. I need to understand what those are, right? What's our tax burden? And so often, it's hard to teach people, okay, here's when I need the 10,000 foot view. And then here's when I need it really being on the ground, right? But, and what I've always been a proponent of in my career is I'll have the detail. I got a good buddy, Brian Hopkins. He's a military guy. And one of his saying is, I'd rather have it and not need it than to need it and not have it, right? And so what I'll typically do is have the detail available. And then as much as you want or need presented, I have it there. Yeah. But, it's so important. And that's something that as I talk to, I'm interviewing right now for a salesperson, right? I have 2 openings. Anybody out there listening, we've got some sales positions out there that's, they come with a nice base plus commission. But, one of the things that I'm talking to them about is explain your sales process. Not only do I need confidence that you can sell, but I'm also, you got your TMC logo on. Oh, it's on the wrong side. My TMC logo on. When you get in front of my customer, I need to understand what my customer is going to be seeing. Are you representing the company, right? Are you in a shirt and a tie, right? Those are the level of details that we're looking for. When you're out selling, what's separating you from the competition? So as I've been interviewing for the last 4 or 5 weeks to try to get these 2 positions filled, I'm really, challenging those salespeople you have to focus on the details. How many sales calls are you making a day? How many sales calls are you making per hour? What's your close rate? How much time are you spending with customers? How much of my money are you spending on lunches and dinners? And then what's the close rate, right? So I like to really get into those details. One thing I find, we do a lot of industrial engineering. We do packaging. I was just showing you a project that we're doing for a client. There's a level of meticulousness that has to go into every one of those projects, right? We have to focus on the details. And what I find is that's a differentiator for TMC. Well, what sets TMC apart from the competition? We focus on the details. We sweat the small things is a term that I hear. So, I think that's just very, very important, right? In business, you got to know when to go deep, right? You got to know when to get into the ABCs and the 1, 2, 3s. You were going through a SMART analogy when we jumped on the call. Yeah. One of the things that we do is the DMAIC process: DMAIC, which is define, measure, analyze, improve, and control, which
Okay.
is very similar to the SMART process that you go through and some of the work that you do. And I know you're working on a really hot book right now. I won't give up too much on this call, but yeah. So let's, just as we get into focusing on the details, right? What are some times where maybe we don't need to focus on the details, right? Maybe, and I'm talking, I've talked a little bit on the professional side where I'll tell people, I don't need you to get in the weeds.
Yeah.
But on the personal side, right? And maybe we talk a little bit about the advantages of keeping it at a high level.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what that may translate to personally, um, so when you don't need all the details for everything. So like kids don't care about what you had to do to make it happen. When it pertains to those types of relationships, they care if you were there or not. Sometimes some things are just kind of result based. But in our personal life, like I said, it's knowing where what are we talking about. So, like I said, is this a sledgehammer? Or is this a sandpaper type of event? I think that it's the appreciating details is the important part. Having an appreciation for the small stuff, having an appreciation for the little things, because most of our life is not going to look like or be predicated on our home runs. If you look at a batting average next to how many home runs you hit in a season, there's a huge difference between the two. Your life is going to look like your batting average. How often did you show up and how consistently, rather than how many times did you have these big grandiose, hit it out the park moments.
Yeah.
So looking at consistency, looking at, like I said, showing up, consistent communication, consistent appearances, consistent, looking for opportunities to be present. Most life, if you can't just work out once a week for 5 hours. You know what I'm saying? Like,
right.
You're going to eat crazy, not do anything, and then think that you're going to show up. I'm going to work out for 5 hours crazy, and I'm going to be ripped for summer. It don't work that way.
It doesn't work that way. You would actually have more success instead of trying to work out one day for 5 hours. You work out 5 days for 1 hour.
Exactly.
So that's almost addition by subtraction, right?
Yeah, you do better taking your wife to the Olive Garden 4 days a month than going out with her once a month. If you went out with her 4 times, once a week, to the Cheesecake Factory, to the Olive Garden, that would serve you better than having one night a month at an expensive restaurant.
Wow, I think that's really good advice, right? And I can tell you that those are the type of things that I try to say, okay, I'm busy,
yeah.
Right? And I know other people say you ain't that busy, but I'm busy, and so what I'm trying to do is, okay, let me hit a home run, right? Let's go to Escalante's once a week. But then you think about, well, maybe it doesn't have to be Escalante's every, once a month on the first.
Yeah.
Maybe it's, hey man, let's go grab a burger.
Okay.
Let's go, do a round of bowling or whatever on Saturday. Like we all get together. Let's put some meat on the pit and just enjoy each other's company. So, I like how our conversations, right? Because when I was thinking about focusing on the details, excuse me, this isn't really, it's kind of taking a different turn, right?
Okay.
I was really thinking about the fine tuning of it, right? The fine tuning. And, but this is fine tuning, right? You're talking about sustainability, which is critical. So I think you hit on some really nice things is, I guess on the personal side, right? And I'll talk a little bit about the business, the dinners, right? The 4 dinners at a moderate place a month versus going to Perry's Steakhouse once a month, but what's some other advice, right? For us knucklehead fellas out there that can't seem to, we're oblivious, right? It's not that we're trying to be lazy, but we're trying to get the most bang for our buck so that we can keep going. So,
Yeah.
what are some of the details that maybe you would offer up, or some advice?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, like I said, the small victories. If it's we all watch the same family TV show every Thursday night, that weekly thing will resonate and build something more than the one trip to Disneyland a year.
Right.
You know what I'm saying, instead of looking for always the home run, like let's perfect the small. What do we do on the day-to-day basis? Okay, we everybody gets up and leaves the house at the same time every morning. Maybe we pray before everybody leaves the house.
Yeah.
Everybody's out the door at 8 a.m. Okay, 7:45. Before we all say a prayer together about the type of day we have, what we're appreciative, exercising gratitude, thoughtful for each other, wishing the best for each other. All right, break, and everybody go about their day. 15 minutes in the morning.
Yeah.
That level of consistency, that perfecting that small. You're only talking about 15 minutes, but
Right.
that 15-minute routine every morning creates a strong, stable base for the person, for everybody's day.
Yeah.
And like I said, it doesn't have to be where we spend 2, 4 hours, 3 days together, or 2 weeks out the year. It can
Right.
just be something as simple as, we have a word every night. We have prayer before we go to bed. We make sure whatever you do all day long, we have dinner together. You can have breakfast wherever, lunch wherever, but dinner we come together, no phones. And we just this hour we dedicate to no cell phone, no scrolling, just 60 minutes of conversation and togetherness,
That's huge. That's huge.
instead of worrying about where we going for 2 weeks, where we doing this summer,
Right.
and what are we doing, for Christmas. Now let's just, man, every Sunday we got 60 minutes.
Yeah.
Every morning we got 15 minutes.
Yeah. It's so funny you say that, because I'm sitting here, I'm always, again, seeing what I can apply to myself.
Yeah.
And I think I was just telling you this weekend, I'm taking your nephews on a fishing trip.
Yeah.
But I sometimes I think about, Josh is home, my youngest son. My oldest son is in town, but I hadn't really seen him in a couple of weeks. My middle son, I only see him about once a month. So all their birthdays are within about a 6-week window. So I'm like, okay, we're going to do a fishing trip. We're going to go fishing this weekend, get out there. And it's going to be a great experience. But I can't help but think, how good would it be to say, hey, man, and, they all have their own lives, but on Sunday, we're going to all get together and watch the NBA playoffs.
Yeah.
Right. And then we're going to start doing a Sunday. I remember when I was a kid, we go to grandma's house on Sundays, and grandma will have some greens and black eyed peas, and, probably have to cook 4 chickens to feed all y'all. But, it was a Sunday thing to where we know no matter what happens through our week, every Sunday we're getting together as a family. So I really, really like that. I'm going to jump in just a little bit on the business side, right? One thing that I'm going to make sure that I'm encouraging my employees to do is focusing on the details, right? Making sure that, when you're doing a drug test, again, owning a staffing company, we do a lot of drug tests. Are we testing for the right things? Are we ordering the right tests? Right. We have clients that have 6-panel, 10-panel, 12-panel, 20-panel, right? We got some customers that's testing for everything, and they want a piece of hair because they want to know if you smoked something 6 months ago. Yeah. And with other clients that said, we just need bodies. But the difference in the cost of those 2 tests are significant. Well, if I got somebody that's just saying, oh, just drug test them, we'll cover everything. Well, now you're degrading profitability. So that's where you're not focusing on the details. Right. Are we looking, when we do I-9s and E-verifies to make sure that people are legal to work in the United States, are we looking at their ID? Right. Are we focusing on that detail? Make sure that they're not using an expired driver's license, and it's a real document, because without that attention to detail, I can end up getting $100,000 fine, when the government comes in and says, hey, you've been working somebody with a fake ID or whatever. So, when we talk about really focusing on the details, right? A big thing for me is hitting deadlines. If the report is due on the 15th, it needs to happen on the 15th. And I've got somebody on my team, I won't say a name, but this person is great for delivering the report at 11:59 on the 15th. And so I'm laying in bed and I'll get that ding and I look at it and it's my report. Well, I can't do anything with it today. And the detail, oh, well, you said it was due today. I delivered it to you. Well, that's not funny and that's not fair.
Yeah.
So, I think that's something that I can really start to talk about. And then, as leaders, what is the expectation for the details? Right now, we start getting into developing SOPs, standard operating procedures, developing work instructions. Here's how I want it. So here's the level of detail that I require for you to be deemed successful in this task. Right. So that's kind of where my head's at on it. That's where my head's at. You know, this is a very important, this is a very important topic personally and professionally. I'm not going to drag it out. Do you have any closing thoughts on it?
Yeah, I would think that. So whenever we talk about, like, when you're focusing on the small, focusing on the details, focusing on the little things, that's usually we get referred to as, to like I said, to respect the little things, to respect the details.
Yeah.
Because when we think of them as, oh, that's just a Sunday, oh, that's just 15 minutes, oh, that's just whatever, and we don't respect them, then we won't appreciate them, we won't value them, and then our behaviors will be in according with something we don't appreciate, we don't respect, and we don't value.
Right.
And it's the little things, when you what was that old Will Smith story when he talked about his dad used to own the shop, and he had him and his brother building that wall in front of the shop.
Mm-hmm.
And he said they spent all summer out there, and he was like, look, I need you and your brother to build this wall. And he's like, they were like 10 and 12. He said, when do you want us to build a wall? He said, don't worry about building a wall. Just take this brick, set it up, and lay this brick as perfectly as a brick can be laid. And do it again.
Yeah.
And do it again. And then eventually you'll step back and you'll have a wall.
Right.
And so when we get hung up on, it's just a brick. And when that's the mentality, it's just a dinner. It's just a phone call.
Yeah.
It's just a lunch date. It's just a little league practice. It's just a brick.
Yeah.
Then that's when we get into trouble. But when we're like, no, this brick, if I show up for this practice, I show up for this lunch, I show up for this dinner, then that becomes the wall, the foundation for our relationships with our significant other, with our children, our social circle, with ourselves. We show up for ourselves. It's not just a workout.
Yes.
It's not, what I'm saying? It's not just a healthy lunch. Yeah. Like, it's not just going for a walk. It's not just a brick. So I think when we take the mentality that of lying each individual brick as well as it can be laid, then that's when we can step back and see, okay, this is the totality. This is the healthy relationship.
Yeah.
This is the healthy parenting dynamic. This is my personal health as well. Like, because we pay appreciation and respect to each of those bricks.
Yeah. What I hear you saying is almost sometimes you have to trust the process.
Yeah.
Even if you don't know, what it's going to look like at the end, it's almost like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
Right. You open it up and you got hundreds of pieces on the table. And you're like, well, I think it's supposed to look like this picture that's on the box, but you got all these jumbled up pieces, and then you just start finding two pieces that fit together.
Yeah.
You're trusting the process. You're trusting that if I continue to put these pieces together one by one, then ultimately it's going to look like the picture on the box. When I was listening to you talking, I've got my own personal experiences, with, I was listening to one of your other shows when you started talking about daddy issues, right? And I think that's one that I could really relate to. But I was actually listening to Shaq.
Okay.
Shaq was doing a talk in LeBron, and it was interesting where Shaq was raised by his stepfather, and his father had done some things when he was born where he went to prison for 4 years, but that doesn't erase 18 years I'm growing up as an adult, as a child. And, what Shaq said was, he talked about his stepfather taking care of him. And then LeBron started to speak. And LeBron said something very interesting, and it kind of took me back to what you were just saying. He says, if my dad would have just showed up every Christmas and took me to McDonald's for a Happy Meal, we would probably have a relationship today. But he didn't. He never showed up. So now you can't show up when I'm 25, the king in the NBA making millions, and now you're here saying, "Hey, I want to build a relationship." And what it really makes me think about, and this is something that I did in my younger days as a parent, and I thank God that I was able to kind of get myself on track. We all have this illusion that we have more time, right? And we can have a whole nother show on time, right? I so often say, hey, I can go spend 13 months in Ireland building my career. It's going to help me generate more revenue. It's going to help me generate more income, and I'm going to be able to pay for this house for my kids. Well, what about the kids in football practice and basketball? Well, I got time. I'll take care of that when I get back, right? Oh, they need me to go to Dallas for 13 months. Oh, they need me to go to San Jose for a year to do a startup. And all of a sudden you look up and your 5 and 6-year-old are 15 and 16. They ain't trying to go get no ice cream with me. They ain't trying to hang out with pops. They're out. And I'm like, well, how did that happen? I thought I had more time.
Yeah.
Right. Well, I was focusing on the major things.
Yeah.
I paid the mortgage. The lights were on. Mama had money for groceries. They had a nice car. They were well dressed. But the details, right? I didn't focus on, man, let me go to practice.
Yeah.
Let me go to football practice. Let me coach. I'm a football guy. Let me coach. So those are some of the details, right? So I guess if there was advice I would give to our listeners today is you can't just assume you have unlimited time, man. That's the one thing that you can't get back. Once you spend it, it's spent. No deposit, no return. So that's some advice that I would probably give some of our listeners, right? I think, when we start off last week or 2 weeks ago, we had like 10,000 impressions or something crazy.
Nice.
So if we get 10,000 people that pick this up, if there's any advice I would give is, the value of focusing on the details is doing it now.
Yeah.
Because, as grandma used to say, tomorrow ain't promised. It's not guaranteed. There's no guarantee we're going to wake up and have all of a sudden, now I can go start spending time with my kids. And when we get 55, man, your kids, they don't want to hang out with me. They may want to hang out with their younger, cooler unk, but they don't want to hang out with me. So, hey, why don't you close us down for today, man? This has been a great dialogue. But give me some words of wisdom. Give me my free therapy for the week.
Well, I would agree with you first off saying that's the punchline, that we all think we have more time.
We all have more time.
That's the funniest joke in the world, when we always think that we have more time. And so when we're thinking about those things, like I said, it's to keep the details and the small stuff in mind.
Mm-hmm.
Those little things. You also got to remember, like, perspective. So depending upon where you're standing is how big or how little something is. So, to us, if you're the person who's the caretaker of a bunch of people, you have a bunch of outlets that you need, a bunch of boxes you need to check. But to the person who's the box that's getting checked, you're the one caretaker.
Mm-hmm.
So to you, it's like, I have to show up for my job. I have to show up for my spouse. I have to show up for my kids. I have to show up for here to here to here to here to here. You have all these places that are pulling you. But to your child, you're the only father. So that one thing of showing up for them may be box number 20 for you, but you're box 1 of 1 for them.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Showing up for your spouse is maybe a big box, but it's one of multiple for you, but you're the 1 of 1 to them.
Yeah.
So when we start thinking about, okay, small perspective, this may seem like a detail to me, but it's the home run to somebody else. So when we show that appreciation for those things that we may not initially think are big, me showing up 15 minutes late to my job, or me not having my ID is a little thing to me, but to the person who has to pay the $100,000 fine,
Right.
that that
Right.
little detail is
Big
a
deal.
home run, a huge thing.
Right.
So sometimes about understanding, okay, it's this, if this one brick is not right, this whole wall can collapse. So
Mhm.
giving appreciation and respect to those things that may not seem as big, and making sure that we have that time, and that we pay a little extra effort sometimes.
I like that. I like to close out. I try to read as much as I can, and I'm a big fan of Covey. And in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, when he starts to talk about the importance of kind of when it's all over.
Yeah.
And there's a point in the book where he kind of references, and I'm paraphrasing, nobody lays on their deathbed and says, man, I wish I would have spent a little more time at work. I wish I'd have spent a little bit more time in them streets chasing skirts. Nobody does that, right? People are like, man, I wish I'd spent a little more time with my kids. I wish I'd have spent a little bit more time with my parents before I lost them, right? I wish I'd spent more time reading and sharpening my mind. So, you begin with the end in mind, right? When you're in that wooden box in front of the church, and we get past all the people that are talking about, oh, he was a good man and blah, blah, blah. When they start talking about what's real, what are they going to be saying about you? Did you take the time to be a good friend? Did you take the time to be a good father? Were you a good son? Were you a good uncle? Were you a good boss? Were you fair? Were you ethical? Were you a high integrity guy? Or was you out here hooking and tramping? Were you out here lying and cheating and stealing, right? And you died and nobody has anything positive to look at you, right? Did you focus on what was important? So, hey, man, I think this is great. As we wrap up, I like to always tell people that, you've got a great business. Not only am I brag about it, but I'm actually a customer of yours. Talk to us about, the assessments, and where can people find you?
Yeah. So, like I said, the practice I have is based around a DISC assessment. And if you're not familiar, it's basically a test that shows our tendencies in behavior, how we naturally deal with decision making, how we communicate, interacting with people, how systems orientated we are, and et cetera. And the assessment comes with a 22-page report of the individual. So humans always say that people don't come with an owner's manual.
Mm-hmm.
This ultimately becomes yours. And
Nice.
it shows ideal, best, and least effective communication styles, potential blind spots in behavior, all kinds of stuff. And so, for anybody who's interested in that, you can go for more information. You go to mykeystome.com, MYKEYSTOME, and you'll get more information about the assessment, coaching stuff, get you set up with a consultation, and then if you're interested, get you started. And then for any social media platforms, I'm easy to find. Everything's at J Morris CEO.
Awesome, man. People, I definitely encourage people to get out there, look up Jermaine. He's got some awesome content out there. I'm so appreciative that he carves out an hour a week to hang out with his big bro. And like I said, it's free therapy for me, but we really are out here trying to help somebody. So I want to strongly encourage people to, get your DISC assessment. What I can tell you that every one of my salaried employees does a DISC assessment. And what's critical is that our turnover has dropped tremendously, which is a positive thing, because we're able to pair employees and managers a whole lot better, because relatability and what type of management style are you looking for? Oh, we have a manager that communicates that way. So I certainly want to encourage people to get their DISC assessment. I can also tell you guys, wink, wink, that it works really well on the relationship side. Knowing what your significant other appreciates and doesn't appreciate, and maybe some little things that you're doing. We talked about focusing on the little things. You may have a partner that really wants you to focus, needs that, right, to be happy. So I encourage everybody to get the DISC assessment. You also got a book that you're working on, man. You're going to make us start a whole nother session. I know you're not ready to give it all up right now, but what's the name of the book?
So similar to the website, it's also Keys to Me. It's everyday strategies to rise and thrive. So it's not only information, but then it shows steps to apply the information. So it's I think it'll be definitely something that people can use and appreciate. So it's not just these are some great words, but it actually shows, okay, I got the information. Now what do I do with it?
Well, I'm gonna keep pushing you to get it done. I plan to have volume 1, edition 1. I know there's a workbook that you're gonna follow that book up with. So I'm gonna make sure I get mine. I'm looking for signatures on it. So me, I'm James Morris, right? I own TMC Workforce Solutions. We're a national staffing, recruiting, consulting firm. We're all over the U.S., spending a lot of time in the state of Georgia. I don't know where that came from, but we've been blessed to fall into some new markets. Obviously, we're based in Texas, and about 55% of our client base is in the state of Indiana. So we got people all over the United States. We're trying to put people to work. We're working with companies that need people. There's a big old shipping company in Memphis, Tennessee that we're in some negotiations with right now. I can't say the name. I hope to be able to follow up with a praise report in some coming weeks. But they got trucks and they're not brown. That's all I'll say about it. But so we're out there. We're staffing, right? So if you're listening and you're looking for a high delivery, high integrity, temporary staffing company, I certainly encourage you to go to tmcworkforcesolutions.com. We also do coaching and consulting. If you go to the morrismotivation.com website, we're working with some really cool clients. I wish I could share the names, but we've been fortunate. So we're busy. So want to thank everybody for listening. Hey, Jermaine, I love doing this every week. I love this platform. I think we're helping people. Like I said, we had almost 10,000 impressions a couple of weeks ago. So people are picking up the clips. They're listening to what we're saying. I actually had somebody send me a question like, hey, I'm glad you guys were talking about work-life balance. I'm trying to really, thrive on the leadership side, and it's impacting my home life. What do you think? And I'm like, well, first and foremost, I'm not a doctor. I don't prescribe anything, but let me tell you how I've handled it, right? I've been in corporate America for 30 years, and I've dealt with work-life balance or lack thereof. So, I've got people that are actually sending us comments and questions saying, man, that content, I'm going through that myself. I'm a young guy. I'm trying to move up. I'm having some issues at home, man. And you guys are really stepping on my toes, and I appreciate it. So, hey, man, let's keep doing this. Let's keep helping people. I think we're being a blessing to some folks. We've got some things coming out. I'm very excited about your book coming out. I've got the entrepreneur. Yeah, I've got the Entrepreneur's Encyclopedia that'll be coming out shortly, and I'm super, super excited about it. I've actually met with the Southern Miss University this week, and they have some interest in bringing the book into one of their curriculums. Nice. And so Dr. Lee, if you're listening, I'm giving you a shout out that you're going to get my book in the Southern Miss University. And it's 30 chapters of how to start a business, grow a business, sustain a business, sell a business, shut down a business, taxes, human resources, you name it, we're covering it. So yes, you can go out on the internet, but we're trying to have a desk reference guide right there handy at your fingertips that you can grab and say, wow, I need to get an NDA. What does an NDA look like? So we're doing some really cool stuff. So, hey, brother, I'm proud of you. We'll do this again next week. We're going to continue to help people out. And hey, that's it for the week. Thank you, everybody.